Well, good evening, Spirit and Truth Sanctuary. Happy Wednesday to everyone. This is the day the Lord has made. We came to rejoice and be glad in it. We're glad you're joining us for our Wednesday night teaching and discussion. We are once again in Eckhart Tolle's A New Earth. Tonight's going to be, as every other week has been, it's going to be provocative and introspective. And we're going to learn more about ourselves, and then we're going to learn from each other a little bit. And so we encourage you to be part of the discussion. If you want to take a look at your email, we sent you an email today with those discussion questions. If you want to go ahead and kind of get them working over in your mind, you can.
They're in the chat as well.
They're in the chat as well, Brandy said. And so thank you for being aware of that. And we always love the discussion that we have. We're going to begin tonight with our 365, Fully Awake 365 devotional. And we are in the month of October, which the theme of October is No Fear. And we're actually going to talk about that some on this coming Sunday. Our fifth Sunday is a virtual Sunday. We're going to talk about the origins of fear this Sunday. All right, tonight's devotion, or today's devotion, October 25th, Disappointment, Expectations, and Projections. Disappointments, expectations, and projections. Let's grab our affirmation together. Today, I will not project my happiness onto future events. My only expectation of the future is to be fully awake and firmly aware of the power that only exists in the now. Whew, that's pretty powerful affirmation there. So, how do we walk into this devotion? One of the real setups, pitfalls, of our happiness is the projection into the future. Not only projection, but we kind of set things up in our mind how we think something's going to go in the future. And that's kind of, we're in that first paragraph right here. We think about future expectations, we put it into future events. Sometimes those events are social, they're societal, sometimes they're more corporate. Other times, our events or our projections into the future are affected by individuals, their health, their attitude, their mood, their availability. And so a lot of what we project into the future sometimes becomes a disappointment for us. Why? Because we project an expectation around an event that really we can't predict all of. Things change, people's schedules change, the weather acts up. People get into arguments, they get busy. So a family member passes or becomes ill or whatever. We just cannot predict the future. We can't do it. And so in order to live a life of constancy and consistency with happiness and peace, we can't project our expectations into future events. We don't know exactly how those things are going to work out. What we do know is that wherever we are, or will be, we're going to be there. And if you're the type of person who wants to make the best out of any situation, you're going to have a good time, whatever that is. You're going to be at peace. You're going to be happy. Why? Because our happiness, our peace, is not at the mercy of how somebody else behaves, or the weather, or flight arrangements, or whatever the thing is that you're projecting into the future. A new job, a new church that your old church was terrible. You're going to you put all your faith in the new church. All these are really setups for disappointment. We choose to live in the now moment. Look at the scripture here. Jesus gives us a little encouragement about staying away from that. Therefore, don't worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about its own things. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble. Jesus was saying, look, you got enough to think about today, enough to worry about today. Just stay present. Stay in this moment. All right, very last paragraph says, people will let us down. We will let others down. Events will not be as grand as we imagined they would be. Plans will be changed or even canceled. The only expectations we should be projecting into the future is that we will be strong enough to adjust our new reality and awake enough to create the reality that we desire. Even when life hands you lemons, we can always make lemonade. All right, let's grab our prayer at the very bottom together. Ever-present peace, give me the wisdom to never surrender my happiness to anything outside of myself, to anyone other than me, or to any time other than right now. Amen. That's a lot of wisdom right there. I think I wrote that down. I'm not sure, so I don't want to say that it's just an incredible day. If I wrote it, I think my sister may have written it You have to tell me, LaDonna, I'm not sure. We write so similarly. We think similarly. But either way, it was a very, very powerful day. Thank you for joining us. Welcome once again to Spirit and Truth Sanctuary. We are an inclusive, interfaith, LGBTQ plus affirming spiritual congregation that knows God is bigger than religion, bigger than all these constructs that separate the human family. Your notes are in your event description if you want to take a look at those. And then we're going to jump right into the teaching tonight. The themes that we have been kind of wrestling with on a weekly basis have been, first of all, the ability to recognize our own dysfunction, which we give thanks for that awareness. That means that we can be functional if we recognize dysfunction. If we recognize our insanity, we can be sane. If we recognize what's not working, we can try something different. Yeah, and so we don't continue in the same dysfunction. We give thanks that we can recognize something when it's not working in our lives. We've talked about identifications, both our physical forms and even our thought forms, that we are neither of those things. We are not our physicality, and we are not our opinions. We're not our beliefs. We're not our politics, our theology. And then finally, we have given the encouragement that wherever we are presently in consciousness is not synonymous with our eternal capacity. What does that mean? Wherever we are in thought, whether that be considered a high vibration, you're living in a space of openness, you are allowing others to live their lives, you're letting others be, you're not projecting your thoughts onto others. That's a pretty high vibration. Yeah. You're holding space for love and joy and peace. However, you've not arrived yet. There's always more. There's always more unfoldment, always more evolution, always more awakening. If you are in a lower vibration of hatred or jealousy or rage or discrimination or homophobia or xenophobia or misogyny or subjugation of any sort, that is not who you are. You are not that low vibration. You are in a present consciousness, but your eternal capacity is much bigger than your present opinions. That's something that we offer of a grace to ourselves. We also offer that to those that we encounter and even to our family members. All right, last week we had a great discussion. We talked about applying lessons from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. We talked about practicing detachment and gratitude simultaneously. How do we do that? How do you not get too attached to something and also be grateful for it? We allow things to flow to us and through us. We bless it coming and we bless it going. That's how we practice a detachment and gratitude at the same time. Then finally, we talked about what Jesus meant when he said, "My peace I give, not as the world gives." Peace, an inner peace, something that's not at the mercy of external conditions. Tonight, we're going to jump into our questions and then right into the teaching tonight. Here's tonight's questions. What is the difference in object consciousness and space consciousness? Object consciousness and space consciousness. Only two questions tonight. Number two, what are some ways in which you can create space between thought, belief, or opinion and awareness? How do we create space between thought, opinion, belief, and awareness? How do we get some space between these things? I'm not my thoughts, I'm not my beliefs, I'm not my opinions. I am the awareness that I consider these things over there. They're not who I am. We'll talk about that some tonight. Week 64, and Eckhart Tolle's in Newark. We're so glad you're joining us tonight. Hey, all my peoples, love you guys. Week 64, object consciousness and space consciousness. Most people's lives are cluttered up with things, material things, things to do. He talks about that's the content of our mind, the things that we do, things to think about. Their minds are full of thoughts, one thought after another. This is the dimension of object consciousness. That is many people's predominant reality. And that is why their lives are so out of balance. Object consciousness needs to be balanced by space consciousness for sanity to return to our planet and for humanity to fulfill its destiny. The arising of space consciousness, now we're not just talking about outer space, even though I love to talk about that. Space consciousness is the next stage in the evolution of humanity. Space consciousness means, here we go, if you're looking for the answer to question number one. Space consciousness means that in addition to being conscious of things, which always comes down to sense perception, thoughts, and emotions, there is an undercurrent of awareness. So, object consciousness, things, perceptions, thoughts, emotions, materialism, space consciousness, an undercurrent of awareness. Okay, we're gonna unpack that a little bit more. Awareness implies that you are not only conscious of things or objects, but you are also conscious of being conscious. Wow! I'm not just aware, I'm aware that I'm aware. I'm not just conscious of my thoughts, I'm conscious of what I think about my thoughts. Yeah, that's kind of a power dynamic there, isn't it? If you can sense an alert inner stillness in the background while things happen in the foreground, that's it. All right, so let's make some application here. And let me give you some examples. We talked about during our teaching in the power, and Eckhart Tolle is The Power of Now, that there are thoughts, then there's the thinker of the thoughts, then there is the observer of the thinker that's having the thoughts. Well, that's the way that Tolle would say in A New Earth, the awareness, the space consciousness. So, I'm not my thoughts. I'm not the thinker having the thoughts. I am the observing presence. I'm the awareness of the thinker that's having the thoughts. If that sounds a little bit abstract to you, let's make some application. Let's say that you want to buy something off the internet, Amazon or some other search engine. Who knows? Okay, so there's an item that you want to purchase. Okay, that's the thought. Okay, then there's a search engine that you may use. It could be Safari or Firefox or Chrome or whatever, or even a shopping site. It could be Amazon or something.
You said it right.
What did I say?
You always say Foxfire, but you said Firefox.
Foxfire.
Right.
Firefox.
You're coming up in the world.
Coming up, so. Yeah, so there's the item you want to purchase. There's the search engine. And then you're not the item, are you? You're not the thought. You're not the thing you're buying. Okay, whether it's material or buying into a thought for a season. You're not the mind, the search engine that can find that item on the internet. You're not the internet. You're not the search engine. You are the operator that's using a search engine to find an item. Guess what? You are the awareness that knows that you have a mind that thinks thoughts. See those three different levels? That's how we create some space between our beliefs, our opinions, our prejudices, our biases, our politics, our theology, our culture, our lived experiences, our memories. You are none of those things. You are not the thing. You're not the thinker of the thing. You are the observer of the thinker that's thinking the thoughts. That's a lot, I know. So I even thought today, I'm not my mind. I'm not my memories. I'm not a storage. I'm not the cloud. I'm not just some sort of database of all these files of things that have happened to me in my life. I am the awareness of these levels and of this process. That's a whole different ballgame when you step out into the awareness. That's really how we become healed from saying that nothing that has happened to us could really destroy us. We choose how we respond to things. We don't take things personally. We step out into that awareness. This dimension is there in everyone, space consciousness. But most people are completely unaware of it. Sometimes I point to it by saying, can you feel your own presence? Interesting, almost like an out-of-body experience to some degree. Whenever you're upset about an event, a person, or a situation, the real cause is not the event, the person, or the situation, but a loss of true perspective that only space can provide. You are trapped in object consciousness, unaware of the timeless inner space of consciousness itself. The words, "this too shall pass," when used as a pointer, can restore awareness of that dimension in you. Nothing is permanent. The temporary nature of all things that we go through. Another pointer to the truth in you is contained in the following statement. I am never upset for the reason I think. Wow, my goodness, yeah. I'm never upset for the reason I think. Usually that feeling of being upset, disappointed, is so much deeper than anything that you think it is. It really is dealing with your state of beingness, not a specific event. So I don't just get happy. I don't just stay happy. I be happy. I am happy. My beingness is of joy and of happiness. Space consciousness has little to do with being spaced out, as when you are under the influence of drugs or alcohol, which some people use to get beyond their thoughts in an effort to find peace. Both being spaced out and space consciousness are beyond thought. This they have in common. The fundamental difference, however, is that in one, you rise above thought, in the other, you fall below it. Woo, that's really good, isn't it? So intoxicants that we take to relax us or to have a good time, you are falling beneath thought. You are becoming uninhibited. You are maybe even making wrong choices at times in moments like that. Yeah, that is the effect of intoxicants on us. However, when you enter into space consciousness, not being high or spaced out, you enter a space where you're above thought. I'm aware of my thoughts, but I'm not my thoughts. One is the next step in the evolution of human consciousness. The other is a regression to a stage we left behind eons ago. All right, here we go. Last paragraph. Space consciousness represents not only freedom from the ego, but also from dependency on the things of this world. Build your hopes on things eternal. If anything in this world is giving you happiness, you're risking happiness. Yeah, cars, weather. Watch this. Even relationships. I'm only happy because I know this person. That's not really where true happiness comes from. It has to come from within. From materialism and materiality. It is the spiritual dimension which alone can give transcendent and true meaning to this world. Wow, that's a lot to chew on. So let's go back and talk again about, let's rehearse our 2 questions tonight. And then we're going to open it up a little bit early tonight for discussion. So here's our 2 questions. What is the difference in object consciousness and space consciousness? Yeah, object consciousness and space consciousness. Number 2 is kind of an application of the understanding of these 2 things. What are some ways we can create space between thought, belief, and opinion and awareness? How do we create space between our thoughts, opinions, beliefs, and awareness? Interesting. All right, let's talk tonight.
All right, we'll start with, Miss Bobby. For number 1, she responded, object consciousness is what you can see in front of you. It's real, you can touch it, how you look at a matter. Space consciousness is being aware of your surroundings and in touch with your feelings.
Yeah. The awareness of the feelings. Yeah, that's great, Bobby. So the object consciousness is, this is how I feel about this. The space consciousness is, I'm aware that I have feelings, but I'm not those feelings. That's so good, Bobby. Thank you.
All right, for number 2, Miss Bobby answered, create space between thought. You can think one thing but actually believe just the opposite. Your opinion changes all the time. Just be aware of what's real in your life.
That's really good, Bobby. I heard actually a family member of mine teaching a couple of weeks ago, and I think I said this a decade ago. I don't know if he heard me say it or whatever, but he repeated it and it reminded me of it. Something to the effect of, don't believe everything that you learn. Okay, we can add some other things to that. I can learn a lot of things. It doesn't mean I have to believe them. I can think a lot of things. Doesn't mean that I believe them. I consider a lot of thoughts. I consider a lot of ways of believing. Doesn't mean that I necessarily accept it all as belief. So when you say that you believe something, you are connecting to object consciousness. I know that's difficult, especially for the Christian mind to hear that. But we are bigger than our beliefs. Space consciousness steps out into that realm where we're aware of the belief, but we know that we're bigger than a specific belief. That's really, really good, Bobby. Thank you.
So I don't have any more comments yet. So I know we're a little earlier than normal, but we're here. We have plenty of time.
Yep.
So feel free to chime in. But I was thinking for number 2, what are some ways you can create space? I don't know if I'm thinking about this the right way, but isn't us all being here for this teaching becoming aware and creating that space between the two? Is that an okay way to think about it?
Yeah. So allowing your mind to even consider this philosophical approach to awareness is creating space. It is. Now, if you become married to Eckhart Tolle and you start taking all of his thoughts and you don't have any of your own thoughts, that can become object consciousness. But putting yourself in an environment where you're being taught about awareness is creating space. Absolutely it is. And so, so we are able to say, okay, but let's push back on the other side of that. Well, I create space by going to Bible study each week. Not necessarily. Not if you worship the Bible as God, you don't. Not if you don't understand that the Bible is there to help, but you're bigger than the Bible. Your spirit knows much more than any person ever wrote in the Bible. Okay, so when we get overly connected to religion, to books, that can become object consciousness. However, when you're in a teaching that's talking about that you're not the teaching, you're not the beliefs, you are the awareness, that absolutely is creating space consciousness. That's really good.
All right, Lasagna shared for number 2, I have started practicing mindfulness and presence. It takes a lot of practice and patience, but I have been enjoying life and the comings and goings much more.
Whew! Doesn't it take practice, Miss Lasonia? Yeah, that mindfulness. I heard, I don't remember which book it was that I was reading of Eckhart Tolle, but he was saying, when you say, I am mad, is that really who you are? Or is it what you're feeling in that moment? And so he says, you aren't mad. That's not your I amness, your beingness. You're experiencing anger in this moment. So when you can step out of that and be mindful that I'm experiencing an emotion, but it's not who I am, there is a little bit of space created there. And so, mindfulness, awareness of self, awareness of what our memory bank might be, our lived experiences, the pains of our life as well. When we're aware of self, that's not completely mindfulness, but it's a start in the right direction. And then to be mindful that whatever it is that we bring into something, we might be bringing something in subjectively, and only in that space can we create an objective look at it. And so whether it's filters, whether it is culture, all those things really become object consciousness. Being mindful that we have filters creates the space. That is the mindfulness. Thank you, Lasonia.
Miss Cheryl, for number 1, I really like the end of this. She said, object consciousness is based on an obsession of thoughts or things in the earthly realm and allowing them to define you. And then space consciousness opens space for awareness, and this is what I really love. She says, space for awareness of non-interference with what is.
Woo, that's really deep. I like that, Cheryl. So, juxtaposing the obsession with thoughts to a place of non-resistance, the lack of interference. Yeah, what interferes, Cheryl? Our conditioning, what we have been taught, what we think I know this is tough to say this, but sometimes we take one experience and project it into the rest of our lives. That becomes object consciousness. I was listening to I forget who I was listening to years ago, but he was talking about that he had done some marriage counseling with a couple, and it was their second marriage. and the wife was upset with something the husband had done and called him the name of her former husband. And so they had to sit with that in their counseling session, that he is not, and it may have just been habit, but he isn't your former, and you can't project onto your new relationship everything from an old relationship. Yeah, maybe that's becoming obsessed with thoughts. What about, Cheryl, think about what you said about the object consciousness and apply that to the Middle East right now. Wow. Obsessed with with land, obsessed with a holy temple, obsessed with thinking that that's the center of the spiritual world, spiritual universe, obsessed with their holy books and the way that those things should be lived out, and everyone should do it the same way. There's a lot of object consciousness going on in Gaza, in Jerusalem, in Israel, in the Middle East tonight. And there are those at the same time who are practicing space consciousness, who know that God, self, awareness is so much bigger than all of this that's creating these conflicts. I love it, Cheryl. Thanks.
All right, I'm looking here for anything else. Okay, Miss Cheryl did answer number. Wait, let's see. Yes, number 2. Here we go. Ways that I have cultivated to create space has been through mindful meditative practices and breath work. Breath work opens vibratory space for new experiences and a conscious surrendering.
Whew. Breath work is really effective for so many people. Cheryl, I have taken some meditation classes where you follow the breath, follow it in through the mouth, and you try to follow the breath down through your windpipe, your lungs, into your abdomen, down into your legs. You try to sense the breath even going down into as low as your feet. And we know that oxygen is all over our bodies, but the point of that following is that in the following of the breath, your mind is not as active. It's not thinking about work or conflict or future projections of happiness or whatever. But as you're focused on the breath, you are actually trying to become mindfully mindless. Trying to get out of your head. A lot of times people get very frustrated in meditation because they can't stop thinking about their day, about their things to do list, their children, their this, their that, their job. It's difficult. It can be difficult for a busy person to create that mindful space. But following the breath is an amazing technique that does create a little bit of space between that. Thank you, Cheryl.
So I'll take a moment while anyone else wants to chime in to acknowledge a situation that DE is very aware of that I've dealt with this week. And it is a work situation, and it's been a very difficult event to navigate with a certain person. And the teaching tonight says, whenever you are upset about an event, a person, or a situation, the real cause is not the event, person, or situation, but a loss of true perspective that only space can provide. And I know for me, I don't know about anyone else, but I can feel overwhelmed sometimes when you're in the middle of that event, thinking, okay, what is it I'm supposed to either learn or see about myself or understand about the situation? It's really hard. There's a term they talk about when you're in a difficult conversation, you get flooded. It's that fight or flight response mode. And so sometimes it does take, thank God we all have each other. We all have each other to be here tonight to gain that perspective, because even I would admit that there have been a few times this week I've been flooded in that situation. DE's seen me in it. I think I've actually stayed pretty calm, but
I think you did really well with it.
But no, what did I sing this week? Do you remember the line in the song that we sang this week? And what did I say? No, God is.
Oh, God is, yes.
Can you think of what I'm referencing in there? There is a specific thing that is relevant. love is my career.
Love is my career.
Yeah, when I'm
That's
at work,
hard. Yeah,
when
that's
I'm
a
at work, love is my career.
Love is
So
my
I have to
career.
like self-reflect. Have I shown love?
Mm.
And it's okay, because at the end of the day in this situation, maybe I just need to love myself because I deserve a little love. But anyway, I don't know. I guess maybe you can. Is it just a matter of simply stopping to create that space? Stopping. We talk about breath work. We talk about these things, but it can be hard. Sometimes we come back a week later, 2 weeks later, a month later, a year later, and then we decide to get perspective about a situation. But how do we find it quicker?
Yeah. I have the answer, and I do not follow it all the time. I have an answer. I'll apply it to something in my life. I feel very fairly knowledgeable about Scripture, Bible history, theology. I think I can explain it with most people, even kind of hang out with some PhDs and talk on a certain level. And so when I'm approached with someone who is not an expert, and I consider myself still open and learning, but I have a level of acumen in biblical understanding. When someone approaches me and brings a scripture, sometimes I take it as an insult, because I say, you wouldn't do that to your doctor. You didn't go to medical school. You haven't been to theological school. And so don't bring me this just one statement, because there's a lot more to it. And I get flooded, and I want to immediately go boom, 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 boom. This is why you don't know what you're talking about. And instead of taking it personally, I think I would do better just to take a breath and say, I honor the space that you inhabit. I am not there. That doesn't work for me any longer, but I value your journey, and we just are going to agree to disagree. That's probably how I should handle that more often than completely dismantling people's religion. And I will give myself a little credit. I had a lunch appointment a month ago or so, and someone was asking my opinion about the Bible, religion, certain things happening in the church, and I said, well, I don't want to offer something that's going to hurt you. If what you're doing is working for you, I want you to keep working it. And I only want to answer questions for you that help in this season. I don't want to harm you. And he said, no, I want your take on things. And so I said, okay, let's go. And then we went into some things. But I felt like I honored his space before I went into my space. And so, yeah, being flooded, it isn't always personal. When someone comes at you, whether it's an insult to your intelligence, whether it's an accusation of your job performance, it really is not personal. Usually they're showing a hurt, a fear in their own lives, some sense of insecurity. And so how do we make sure that we're be open to, if there's anything to learn from this criticism, I'm willing to learn. If it doesn't apply to me, let it roll right off. Yeah, and then don't, as I heard Bishop Jake say one time, put it on the shelf. When someone is rude during the day, don't let that ruin your night. Go home and be with your family. Be with your dogs. Take a walk. Enjoy a glass of wine. Watch your favorite television show. Read a good book. Go to bed and put that thing on the shelf. That is not yours. Don't make it yours. But that's a lot easier said than done, isn't it?
All right. Pastor Fred shared for number 1, object consciousness to me is the constant rush of the to-do list of worries and deadlines. Space consciousness is allowing things to happen without any need to know the outcome. Yeah,
that's part of our devotion tonight, wasn't it, Fred? Yeah, object conscious. Sometimes Tolle talks about that as content time. If you're familiar with that phrase that might have been Power of Now. I'm not sure, but he talked about content time and spiritual time, or universal time, or some other phrase that he used. And the content time was about linear things, Fred, timelines, deadlines, budgets. Yeah, we live in that, and it does serve its purpose. I had, several appointments today. Even on a day that I basically work from home on Wednesdays, I still had to kind of keep a schedule because I wanted to do certain things today. And I had someone come to the house that needed me to help them with something, and so even on a day when you don't have to be as regimented, we still do live in a time-space world to some degree. The beautiful thing, Fred, is that we're aware of that's not who we are. We can operate, Jesus said we're in it, but we're not of it. Yeah, I do keep a schedule, but I'm not trapped in time. That's not who I am. Thank you, Fred.
All right, Richard Copeland for number 1 shared, object consciousness limits one's ability to think outside the box. Space consciousness allows us to consider different options, ideas, etc.
Yeah, what does that box look like, Richard? Man, couldn't that box take on a lot of different labels? That box could be race, gender, culture, religion, past, projections into the future, what I do. I am my career. I am my thoughts. I am my age. All of these are object consciousness. Space consciousness opens up. Yeah, that's a different place, isn't it? There's a lot of space consciousness in Scripture. It doesn't get taught a lot because we teach mostly object consciousness from Scripture. But in the book of Jeremiah, we get this beautiful glimpse into space consciousness when God says to Jeremiah, "Before you took on form, I knew you." Before you came into material, flesh, gender, race, religion, thoughts, I knew you in your space consciousness. Then the Apostle Paul reminds us to be absent from the object consciousness is to be present in the space consciousness. Absent from the body is present with the Lord. And so even in our Bible, we can find a lot of metaphysical teachings that remind us that there is some space consciousness even in the literal Bible itself.
All right, Miss Terry Salcedo shared, object consciousness to me means basically everything in physical form, thoughts, and actions. Space consciousness is the place deep within me, the silent stillness. There I separate my thoughts, feelings from my consciousness.
Ooh, that's even poetic. That couldn't have been better said, at least my opinion. Yeah. Thank you, Miss Terry. That was just beautiful. I am in that inner stillness. We talk about that in even our religious circles. There is a still, small voice. Yeah. If you get quiet enough, you can hear it. You can hear the beauty of that just inner stillness. Watch this, Terry. Be still and know. Get still. Stand still and know. Stand still and see. Sometimes we think that's about fighting in wars or, sometimes being still is just stop the activity. Not your physical activity, stop the mind activity. Mm-hmm. Take a deep breath, stop overthinking it. It's so funny, sometimes when I'm talking with people, I can tell immediately when I'm talking to a person who overthinks their decisions, their lives. We all should think, we all should gain counsel, but sometimes people, they make very, very simple things very complicated. And then that complication becomes the content of their lives. It becomes the minutia that they deal with. That inner stillness. That actually was the first book I read of Tolle. I don't even remember buying it. I don't know how the book came to me. But it was called Stillness Speaks. And then after that, The Power of Now. And then A New Earth. Thanks, Terry.
Before I read Terry's answer for number 2, I skipped Fred, which they're very similar. But Fred for number 2 wrote, the way I create space is meditation, focusing on the breath, which is what you talked about earlier. And I mean, essentially, Terry is similar. She said, I can create space by getting silent, breathing deeply, closing my eyes, doing self-talk. I am aware of my feelings. I can let them pass through me. Mm-hmm. This too shall pass.
Terry, there's some interesting space consciousness moment. Many in the recorded Gospels. I don't know what my long-term opinion is about the Gospels. I know that they are oral tradition. They were not even written until after 100 years after Jesus recorded ascension. And so who knows? But what we do have, there's some pretty awesome moments in it. There's some of it's tainted with culture and all that, but some real beauty in the Gospels. But Jesus said to, I believe talking to the religious order, he said, "My kingdom is not of this world. If it were, my subjects would fight." So think about the space that he's creating. He's not just talking about, some kingdom of heaven out there, over there. He's saying, my kingdom is a way of thinking, but it doesn't involve like a hierarchy. You can't fight over positionality and promotion. And then he says, if you want to be the greatest, serve. If you want to be first, be last. Think about the space consciousness that Jesus walks us into with that. And then, just amazingly, he says that those who are really followers of spirit are like the wind. You don't know where it's coming from, don't know where it's going to. That's a lot of space consciousness there. He was asked by someone one time that a man was married, he died, and then his younger brother married his widow. So that question was, Jesus, whose wife will she be in heaven? And he said, we don't do object consciousness in heaven. Woo! Isn't that powerful? He said, yeah, you don't belong to people in heaven. It's space consciousness in that realm of thought. And so object consciousness, this is my wife, this is my child, this is my father, this is my sister. Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with some of that, but Jesus says we're not given to that in the place called heaven, that space consciousness. We know ourselves by the essence of who we are. We are known as we are known by our spirits. Woo! It takes a little bit of a metaphysician to break that down, but people teach the Bible from a lot of object consciousness, but there is a ton of space consciousness all over the Bible. Thank you.
So I think that's it. But I will share, and maybe Cheryl was responding to me or the content, not sure, but she shared, forgiveness releases vitality hormones that keep you youthful. Mm-hmm. Not letting go destroys you by releasing the hormone cortisol that causes diseases, dis-ease. So
look at Cheryl even giving us an application on a cellular level. Yeah, it releases even good things or bad things in our body. Yeah, I love that. That was one of the teachings, I believe, of Louise Hay, that certain emotions release certain even things in our body at a cellular level. And so I know you've done some research into that, Cheryl. So thank you. Forgiveness is not about someone else, is it? It's always about us. I was listening, had to do a little bit of painting today, and painting outside, trying to be a good steward of the house that God has blessed us with. And I was listening to an artist, a New Thought artist, who is fantastic. I'm going to do my best to get her to come to Spirit and Truth. She is so amazing. She'd bless our socks off. She really would. She would kill it at Spirit and Truth. But she was writing a song about forgiveness, and she was saying, it has nothing to do with you. Forgiveness, nothing to do with the other person. Forgiveness is all about you and your quality of life, how you experience life. And so that resonates with me, Cheryl. Thank you. I was listening to it today.
All right, so before we end here, I thought I would share a comment that you'll enjoy and get your thoughts on this. It's very deep, DE. I'm just teasing. Jason says, hey, is anybody excited about the new NBA season? Let's go Knicks, he said.
Let's go Knicks.
I didn't know if you were going to have a differing opinion about the team, but you can tell. We did have like a whole opening ceremony last night.
We did. Last night was opening night, Jason, and I told Brandy we are doing dude food tonight. What was that? Pizza, wings, and French fries, and they were all made in the air fryer, so we did it healthy. and some beers. Yeah, I am all about the NBA season. My son is a huge NBA fan. I think my wife is a fan, or either she She gets excited that we're excited about it. She knows some strategy. I think she tolerates
I
it.
like to be in the room when y'all are having fun.
She likes to see us having fun with it. Yeah, I'm excited about some new players. Wimbayama. The third pick, Jason, if you're interested in this, the third pick in the draft, my son played with as a child. Scoot Henderson, right here from Kell High School in Marietta. My son played for his father on the AAU team. Scoot is 2 years younger than my son, but was so good that he played 2 grades up on. And my son's AAU team was amazing. But Micah's like, can you believe Scoot Henderson is like has $100 million contract? I grew up with this guy. Yeah, so we have Jaylen Brown for the Celtics, was right here, played against my kids in high school. Just so many. Sharif Cooper, who played for the Hawks. Isaac Okoro for the Cleveland Cavaliers, played right here at McEachern High School. My son grew up playing against Isaac Okoro. And so not only are we NBA fans, we know some of these guys. I know Dwight Howard personally. My wife and I bought Dwight his suit, the suit that he wore on draft day when he was coming out of high school, right into the NBA. And so we are big NBA fans. I will say this, Jason, I'm not a New York Knicks hater. One of my childhood friends, his father played on the New York Knickerbockers team that won the World Championship. Jerry Lucas is a Hall of Famer. I grew up with his son. I went to all the Hall of Fame games. We went to the NBA All-Star games. It was unbelievable. And so he won a ring. He got a ring with the New York Knicks. So I'm definitely not a Knicks hater. But I do have to admit, I am an Atlanta Hawks fan first. I will never not. I'm a Falcons fan, Hawks fan, Braves fan. And then there are other teams I cheer for, but I'm going to cheer for my home team first. And but I do think the Knicks have a good team this year. It should be interesting to watch. So happy NBA season. All right. We're going to give some shouts out to some peoples tonight. Thank you for making it a great discussion. Quick announcement before we do the shouts out. Remember, this Sunday is Virtual Sunday. Fifth Sunday is Virtual Sunday. Everything will be online. We will also take virtual communion this Sunday. And so be a part of that. Hopefully you can plan something fun or at least restful with your family, friends, or by yourself this weekend. But tune in at 10 o'clock. It'll be a little bit of an abbreviated service because we want to respect everybody's weekend, but hopefully you can connect with us. All right, we'll read the affirmation. I want to get some shouts out first. Everybody joining: Dr. Ray Madison, Josephine Walker, Ben and Vicky Mullins, Myrna King, Ivy and Margie. What's up, Jason? New York Knicks. Mary Hayes, Eye of Ra, Miss LaSonia, Terry Salcedo, Miss Maud. Saw Miss Maud on Sunday. Pastor Don, hey Dad, Randall Renfro, Laverne Bryant. What's up, Laverne? Bobby Moore, Howard, Cheryl Handy, Pastor Gloria and Howard, Pastor Fred and Mary, Rosaline, Elaine, Doreen. I saw Doreen on Sunday. Megan Lynch, Miss Callie Gossier, Sandra Mack. I gave Sandra a big hug on Sunday. Richard Copeland, Alita. I think it was birthday as well. Glenna McKenzie, Sheila Warner, Lenora Davidson. Emma Gossier was early at church, cleaning up the sanctuary before we even started. Let's see, Ethel Berry, Tanya, Oprah Winfrey, thank you, Miss Tanya, Pastor Curtis and Esther, and Donald Garrett. Happy birthday, Dr. Donald Garrett, by the way. I do want to say this. Those who are joining us online, we're going to try to become more conscious of this. I encourage all of us who are virtual members to also be giving members. It takes quite a bit of effort and finance to do what we do at Spirit and Truth Sanctuary. And more, especially with the post-COVID reality, the majority of our viewership is not in person anymore. We may have, on a Sunday, we might have less than 200 people actually in the sanctuary, more than that on some Sundays. But usually 150 to 200 people or so on a Sunday. We have much more than that online. And so we encourage everybody who eats with us spiritually online to also participate as a giving part of Spirit and Truth Sanctuary. We want to continue to make sure that this model, this message, this mission is continuing on for years to come. And so help us if you will. We are going to take a special offering this Sunday for all of the travel expenses that our church has incurred with me going back and forth to care for Bishop Pearson. I've been 3 times, 3 of those times with Brandy, 1 of those times also with my mother. And so those are very expensive trips. Flights to Tulsa are not cheap. Hotels, all of that is involved with that. Sometimes I stay with Bishop Pearson. Sometimes his family is there, and so I give them some space. I am going again next week, which will be my 4th trip to care for Bishop Pearson. He is currently back in the hospital, and I'm going to bring some joy and some love and life to him. He has invested into our lives, and I think our church, just with these 4 trips, will have spent almost $20,000. It's above $15,000, and so he has invested nothing but love and life and loyalty to us. He would not want our church to be in debt as we go to care for him, and so prayerfully consider giving something toward that. If you need a round number, if everybody would give about $100 toward it, I think it would certainly help us to catch up on those expenses. And so we do it with joy. We do it with joy, loving our precious brother who has meant so much to us. All right, let's read our affirmation together tonight as we close. Tonight, I am willing to recognize dysfunction. If suffering is the normal state of humanity, I do not wish to be normal. If I've created God in my image, I will surrender to the truth that I am made in God's image. I am neither an external physical form, there's some object consciousness, nor any internal thought form, there's some sneaky object consciousness. I am a spiritual being capable of experiencing physical form, there's the space, there's the awareness, and the observing presence open to considering a diversity of thoughts. I'm not the thoughts. My present thoughts do not reflect my eternal capacity. My potential for awakening to self and spiritual transformation are endless. Amen. And so it is. We'll see you Friday morning, 7 a.m. for devotion, and then virtually on Sunday morning. Go in peace.